My name's Jamie, this is Hector, and this will be my first ever show garden. And if you'd have told me when I was 14 that I'd play with plants at Chatsworth Flower Show, I'd think you were joking. So it really is a pinch myself moment. The reason that I'm such an avid gardener, the instigating moment was watching Monty Don on Gardener's World when I was 9 years old. At the time he was sowing seeds and it looked really fun, so I gave it a go. And I still remember to this very day that feeling of A, making a mess everywhere, but B, the feeling of excitement of watching a seed as small as a pinprick germinate, grow and flower. And yes, it does sound cliche, but I still love it to this very day. These are cornflowers, Blue Boy. They have lovely, beautiful, light blue flowers. And this was the first plant that I grew as a kid after watching Monty on the television. It's quite a special plant to me, actually. In fact, we're actually using cornflowers in the garden at Chatsworth Flower Show, which I'm really excited about. When I was first approached to do the garden, I discovered that John Wedgwood was one of 3 people who founded the RHS. But for me, I really knew what I wanted to do for the garden when I read John Wedgwood's journal, and that's in the Lindley Library in Vincent Square, the RHS headquarters. And John wrote about the plants that he loved to grow in his own garden in Kingscote in Gloucestershire. And it was like reading just anybody else's gardening journal, and for me that was captivating. We're going to use these trees on the main feature wall of the garden. The trees we're using are from John's initial journal, so he talks very heavily about training fruit trees. So to have a espalier pear trees on this back wall I think is really important. So we're going to have 3 trees dotted along, and by which point they should, in theory, also have teeny tiny little pears just starting to appear on there as well. John's philosophy was to try and create a space that he wanted people to use, and he was a plantsman, just as I am. So for me it was all about the plants, and the plants needed to provide the structure, they needed to provide the colour, they needed to provide the story. The hard landscaping that's in there has been kept really minimal to enable us to really show off the plants as much as possible. These are our really extra uber special purple beech domes. The fab thing about them is, other than the size of them, is the fact that these have been specifically grown like this. So this is about 20 to 30 years old. Normally with domes, they grow them as a tree, and then they cut them back down and they naturally bush out, whereas these have been specifically grown into a dome shape over many, many years by an expert grower. So 30 years ago, a nurseryman went, I'm going to make these into domes. And hopefully the colours will be a lovely, soft, purpley, coppery colour by the time they come out. They're going to provide these lovely dumpling, cushion style effect to the rest of the herbaceous planting and provide some structure to the planting. So yeah, I'm really excited about these. The Hortus Loci, where we are today, are growing all of the plants for me. I used to work at this nursery, so it's really special for me to be back here and actually watching the expert team here grow the plants for my garden, because that's what I used to do. So there's about 4,500 plants being grown for the garden, and we'll probably need to use about 2,500. There's quite a lot going on. We've got some Euphorbia robbiae, which is a fantastic plant, a lovely limey yellow zing. Even if the flowers start to fade, you can actually see that the nursery have started to cut back the spent flowers, which is encouraging the plant to bush out. So we'll either get a second flush of flowers in time for the show, or if not, we'll get some lovely lush foliage. These Angelicas are fab, they're massive. They're going to be monstrous. And the red will work amazingly well against the purple beech domes, which is perfect, exactly what we want. The colour palette is based on 3 colours, which is going to be Wedgwood blue, deep crimson and a lush green. The anchusa is a stunningly beautiful flower. They start off this lovely deep purple and they actually fade to sky blue with lush purple veining in there. The closer you look, the more you see. And they should be offset perfectly by the Lysimachia Beaujolais, which by the time we get to the show, the flowers will have opened up a lot more and they're offset beautifully by this really glaucous, silvery foliage. I think I'm the youngest designer at Chatsworth this year, so no pressure. But I love what I do, so yes, I'm worried about what the judges think. Yes, I'm worried about what the public think, but for me personally, I just want to create a space that I would really like to use and enjoy at home.
Jamie, this is looking spectacular. I mean, it's an absolute triumph. How are you feeling about the whole experience?
Relieved. Relieved the whole thing's over. No, I couldn't be happier. I really couldn't be happier. I'm still on cloud nine. The whole process from start to finish has been absolutely incredible.
I mean, what's lovely for me is it feels like a real garden. The planting density feels right, the colour palette's beautiful. But you've taken some risks and they've paid off. Using Papaver somniferum, it could collapse in a day, but you've made it work.
Yeah, the poppies were a risk, and what's really nice about using Lawrence grape in there is actually just before judging, about an hour before, next to none of them there was about 2 or 3 tops, and then as the judges came, they all just started to pop. And I kid you not, by the end of it, there must have been about 2 dozen in flower.
Brilliant. So somebody was on your side. Lovely to see your pears have come through. They're looking great. The fruit is there, as promised.
Yeah, the pears we couldn't be happier with. They're fruiting, and they've actually got this really lovely red tinge to them as well, which I think works really well against the wall.
Fantastic. I mean, this must be a real pinnacle for you, from starting in childhood and growing seeds and being a plantsman yourself, and then suddenly you're here at a great big show.
It really is a dream come true to be able to do a show garden and to be able to get the response that we've had.
This is a real success, so congratulations.
Thank you so much, Nick. Cheers.